This video is proudly sponsored by Newtype. Tools, accessories, model kits, these guys have it. Hop over to newtypehq.com and use the link below to help this channel out for future builds. Hey, what's going on my dudes and dudettes, and welcome back to another exciting build from the good folks from BANDAI, Japan. So without further ado, let's finally get started on building the 144 scale high grade Mobile Suit Gundam Aerial from the anime series Mobile Suit Gundam The Witch from Mercury. And without further ado, let's finally get to it. Yo, welcome back my dudes and dudettes to another exciting build from your boy Otaku Builder. And if this is your very first time onto this YouTube channel, welcome! So first and foremost, I need to get this out of the way. A lot has happened in the last 2.5 months, and for those who don't know, I just recently became a father. So the responsibilities of building a model kit versus building an actual editing video and then publishing onto YouTube are completely out of the door. So making a video month to month is not going to happen for this channel, but every 2 months or so, I'm going to stay faithful for you dudes and duds and keep on making content for you guys. It may not happen on a regular basis, but it will happen. But why don't we get started by starting off this year by building my all-time favorite Gundam Aerial. Why is that is? Because it's not only my first, my second, my third favorite mobile, but it's now going to be my fourth favorite mobile design because it is constantly taking the initial idea of how a mobile suit looks like and then revamping it and making it into a nice modern style. And you can definitely see that on the first side of the box art that this thing is streamlined, definitely shows an emphasis on speed, definitely nice organic look to it, but most importantly is the sheer amount of detail that is on this insane amount of high grade. It's definitely up there to a real grade quality, but it's definitely up there to show that this thing is definitely a beautiful model kit. Next up, we have a nice beautiful shot of the mobile suit pilot, L.E.D Mercury, and then on the other side we have a nice tie shot of the actual novel itself. But what makes this model kit even more beautiful, it's under $15, so if you want to buy it now because this guy is very difficult to find. So as always, before we open up, we're going to start with the instruction manual. Once again, I gotta give BANDAI tons of love and respect for making this easy for new and also beginners. What I mean by that is when you open up the very first page of this, everything is done beautifully. The first page gives you a beautiful representation on what you can expect for runners, everything that's color coded on one runner, followed by everything else that's going to be white or gray. The gray part is going to be essentially the inner frame pieces, and then everything that's going to be effect part is going to be done separately. But what is really unique about this high grade is everything is separated. This has been a challenge for anyone that's built a high grade and wants to put custom LEDs into this model kit. The eyepiece are separate, which is really amazing for something this small, which is definitely showing that BANDAI is taking what they learned from the old high grades and then revamping it into a hybridization between a real grade and a master grade into a high grade form. This is definitely shown really great when you take a look at the actual effect parts that sit in the very front of Gundam Aerial. As for the following page, it's very straightforward. You want to start with the shoulders and forearms and then work your way to the legs, or you want to start from the legs and work your way to the torso. The guide is done in a way where it's easy to follow and it's going to create less headaches when you construct it. But once again, I have to give BANDAI more credit on their color guide. And for those who want to build this model kit and want to hide all those nasty little nubs and want to do a nice clean streamlined coloring, or want to do a custom build, the color guide is there for you to work with. Now let's talk about the runners. Once again, I need to talk about this very briefly, but the effect parts are great, but the separate piece for the actual eyes is amazing. This is something that's been requested on the channel for a long time, to put custom LEDs into these high grade kits, and BANDAI has done it for me by making it its own individual piece. I wish it was a clear piece like you would see these particular clear runners, but an actual translucent green part will do just fine by putting a bright LED to make that effect look great. Now let's talk briefly about the blue runners. This is definitely not your traditional Gundam blue color. It's definitely like a cobalt blue, definitely a pastel blue, which is really unique, but it contrasts very beautifully with the bold reds. Now, one thing I need to talk on briefly is these effect parts. These are absolutely beautiful. I have never seen this been done on a high grade before, which means that BANDAI has a lot of faith in this particular lineup of Mobile Suit Gundams, that they're going to go all out to make this really unique. And it's definitely been very apparent about that because this kit is very difficult to find. Next runners up, you're going to get the handful of glare runners that are going to be essentially for the inner frame. The inner frame isn't really much to brag about. It's very straightforward, no difficulties when it comes to actually installing it. But what comes really unique is the sticker decals. As you can see here, there are these weird foil pieces that sit right behind these effect parts. So what essentially it's going to do is when you have a light bouncing off on top of the plastic part, it's going to refract off of the foil part to make it look dynamic looking. But for when it comes to putting custom LEDs, that's really going to be a challenge. That's going to be even more apparent when it comes to putting LED lights inside the head as well as into the thighs, because putting something in this small of a kit is going to be really challenging. But the sheer amount of actually cavity space is going to be really crucial to put all these LEDs in there and help actually not reduce the kind of posability you can get when doing custom installation. That's going to be very apparent on the shoulder blade itself, so custom joint is going to be really necessary to do to make these effect parts really pop out. So without further ado, I am super psyched to build this model kit. It's literally been 2 months since I've actually got a chance to work on it, and I am finally excited to get started building the Gundam Aerial. So as you can clearly see here, I have all the runners fully cut out, and now I need to take the time to evaluate how I'm going to install the custom LED light. So logically it would make sense to actually drill a hole from the very bottom or the very top. But since there's sheer amount of space in there, 2 LED lights won't be necessary to put into this particular small piece. I think 1 chip LED light will do just fine to actually light up both eyes correctly. But the way how the LED light needs to be placed in there, it can't be like directly right in front of the clear plastic. So what I'm going to need to do is custom drilling around the actual red runners to actually point the LED light upward in order to actually light up the eyes correctly. That way this helps reduce any kind of awkward hot spots and makes it look really nice. Woo! Okay, it literally took me 2 hours to painstakingly position this particular piece for the custom LED lights, but you know what? It's ready to go and ready to be painted. So let's talk about briefly on the particular paints I'm going to be using for this Gundam. As you can see here, I'll be working with multiple brands. As for the main body color, I'll be working with Mr. Color 01 for the main body color, and then for a nice color shift between the whites, I'll be using a light gray for the main separation parts, and then for the yellow pieces, I'll be using a combination of orange and orange yellow. That way I get a nice contrast between the two, get a nice like gradient look for it. As for the main color red bits, I'll be using G Studio's red. This is probably the best red I've used in a long time. But as for the pastel blue, I'll be using Giga Color. This color is very expensive, but at the same time, it's very popular and very highly used for anyone that works with Gundam model kits. But I feel that the Cobalt Blue is not blue enough, so I'm actually going to be mixing it between my Mr. Hobby paint. But a lot of people are asking themselves, what am I going to use for thinner? Shockingly enough, Mr. Color thinner works just fine for this particular product. So do your wallet a favor, don't waste your money on the actual brand's thinner because that guy costs around $18. Save yourself a couple bucks and get Mr. Hobby's thinner. That'll do the job just fine. Okay, now comes the next challenging part in this model kit, and that is actually making this effect part color accurate. So the effect part clearly shows like a transition between red, orange, yellow, orange, red. And I want to really emphasize that effect part because it's really isolated on one specific hotspot. Now I know I'm not going to be able to create that nice transitional effect like you would see in the anime, but I think just having a nice localized hotspot is going to get the job done. But having a bright, warm yellow LED light is going to be tricky. So what I'm going to do is hit that area with at least 2 to 3 coats of, to me, a clear red to make that effect part look beautiful. Okay, since the torso is literally 90% done, now I can finally work on the shoulder blades. And the shoulder blades are going to require some serious finessing around the actual area because the plastic is so razor thin. I got to make sure I don't drill all the way through the plastic and separate into 2 pieces. So this is going to require some precision drilling. So just like I mentioned earlier on in the video, I'm going to be utilizing these particular effect parts because the challenging part is going to be the shoulder blades. Now, what do I mean exactly? Since these pieces are razor thin, putting an actual clear piece on there is not that difficult. Why? Because the actual challenging part on there is making sure it's put in there correctly. I was originally going to be using these particular clear runners, but they're too big and they're too bulky to really make the effect look the way I want it. Plus, there's not a lot of room of flexibility, so I had the bright idea of using a fiber optic tubing. I've used this countless time on other model kits, but this is going to be the great candidate to really pull off this effect. So what I'm essentially going to end up doing is actually bouncing the light upward instead of actually reflecting the light through the tubing. If there was more cavity space to work with, I would essentially actually put it on one end over to the other, but I think just having one isolated hot spot will do just as fine. Now, when it comes to actually putting the customization on there, drilling this area is going to be really tricky. So I'll be using Dremel's engraving kit. This is like roughly like 15 to 20 bucks depending where you get a hardware store, but this particular bit is going to be an excellent candidate to really pull this off. Now when you do this, just take your time. When you take your time, you get the effect that you want, and at the same time you won't end up damaging the particular plastic, because let's just face it, working with power tools with something like this small is very risky. Okay, 3 hours later, and now these pieces are beautifully done and ready to be installed. So the challenging part when installing this, it's going to be very simple. I'm going to be positioning these guys on top of the actual shoulder blade and then drilling a small little hole down through the middle of the slit. Now, once again, I just want to create a simple hot spot, but since these LED lights are very bright, it might come out a little too bright in front of the camera, and also when I do photography. So I'm going to have to find a way to actually help desaturate just a little, because I had less of an issue when it came to doing this effect on the thighs, because one, there's plenty of cavity space in there for the light to refract off of the plastic. But since I'll be working with a fiber optic tubing, there's not a lot of light shielding there, so I'm gonna have to actually do some custom work when that comes to being done. Now the challenging part when doing this, it's actually gonna be very simple, but at the same time it's gonna be extremely fun. So once again, I'll be using Tamiya Clear Red, roughly counting 2 to 3 coats on there to make it look just the way I want it, and let it sit and dry for close to 3 to 4 hours. Now when it comes to the backpack unit, there's nothing really much I can really do about it. It's gonna be very simple with one isolated LED light, but once I get the LED light installation done just right, it's gonna create the effect like I want beautifully. Once again, I wanna create an isolated hotspot in one specific key area to where the actual sticker decal is really pulled off that effect. Okay, we are literally at the home run stretcher, so I took the liberty of purchasing these specific water slide decals for the Gundam Aerial, and they look absolutely amazing for something this small. So you can find this on eBay for like around 15 to 20 bucks, but the next challenging part is pulling off the gun bit effects. So I took the liberty of purchasing another action base from Newtype HQ to really pull off the look I want. I'm not going to be utilizing the whole entire action base, just specific parts to create something that's simple for the Gundam to sit onto. Now what I'm going to end up doing is use between 3 to 4 different types of grays to pull off that effect, but not make it too worn torn, just something that is simple to make the actual mobile suit look great when it's in a simple but yet really cool dynamic action pose. Alright my dudes and dudettes, as this video is wrapping up, I want to share with you guys my thoughts and impressions on this model can. Dudes, is it just me, or have the high grades have gotten substantially better in the last 4.5 years? I mean, take what you can say about master grades and even the newer modern versions of the real grades. They are phenomenal. I mean, really great kits, but the high grades, oh my god, this is fantastic. We get clear runners, we get separate piece runners for the eyes, we get phenomenal articulation, we get a nice fresh revamped design of a Gundam mobile suit that, let's just say it kind of looks like a rabbit with its really thick thighs, but that's besides the point. It's taking what's familiar and revamping that Gundam aesthetic to something fresh and exciting looking. And I can say this personally, my wife, not a big fan of Gundam, but when she saw the actual first season and she saw me building this model kit little by little, she got even more excited of me building other Witch from Mercury Gundam kits in the future. And you know what? I might do it, because when we went to the mall, I was really inspired by looking at this display piece, really capitalizing on the idea of different mobile suits from different regions of the galaxy, whether they're from Earth, they're from Mars, and we got one from Mercury. You know, I really wanted to capitalize that energy by making a simple display base, and I did a pretty good job. But even doing that has gotten me really excited on building future mobile suit kits from this franchise. And it's great. Everyone's talking about it because it's very difficult to find these kits right now, especially the Aerial Gundam. So in the future, when that 1/100 grade comes out, I will buy it and I will build it for you dudes. When that perfect grade, let's be real here, it will happen, I will buy it and build it and customize it, because I have not been this excited about building a Gundam kit since 00 Gundam and Iron Blood Orphans, and Gundam Aerial is a phenomenal high grade. Please buy this kit, whether it's at Newtype HQ, Gundam USA, Burbank Hobbies. Buy this kit, you will not be disappointed, I promise you that. And I will see you dudes and dudettes on the next build.
you.